Hey everyone, how's everyone doing? What a great start so far. We still got an hour and a half left, or I should just say 3 sessions left. And let's just recap what is going to be coming up right now in the next for the next hour and a half. So in the next few minutes, and I'm going to introduce him, Kris Pace is coming up. He's going to be talking about mindfulness tactics for alleviating stress. And then right after that, after a quick break, we're going to have a conversation with one of the most seasoned medical professionals and leaders in our country right now. Dr. Bruce is going to talk about challenging wellness strategies for physicians. And then our last program is going to be maximizing your performance and fitness with mindfulness with Tiff Watts. And then right after that, we're going to have a quick presentation by our organizers Republic, and then we will adjourn. So Kris is a really, really cool cat. I got to meet him recently online. Shout out to Josh Kramer for introducing us. He was actually going to be one of our scheduled speakers, but he had an international program to attend to. Kris Pace is an international yoga teacher. He's the owner of the Balance Studio in Orlando, Florida. And also, which is so cool because, again, this is right after Veterans Day. He was a vet with the U.S. Air Force from 1996 to 2002. So Kris is going to share his own journey on how mindfulness has helped him. Here's some things you're going to learn today. Why everyone needs yoga, even for only a few minutes daily. Self-care productivity as an exercise is something that you should utilize in situations you might find yourself needing it. And like Navjot's presentation, Kris will offer something that we all can use every day in our lives. So let me cue Kris up, and then I'm just going to get him started. So again, you're in for a treat. Thanks. Ready when you are, Kris. Ready when you are, Kris. I don't know if you can see us. You're now a co-host. You can now turn on your video. There you are.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Although, how do I get rid of that background?
Well, I can't see you.
Okay, hold on.
No, take your time. No worries.
Let's just do regular. Can you see me okay?
No, I can only see your background. But it's...
Change it to none.
Okay.
You can select none for your background.
Yeah.
Background filters.
None. There we go.
Boom. Yeah. There you are, brother.
All right, here we go. Sorry about that. I am, as Ash said, a veteran and a disabled one. I thought I suffered a traumatic brain injury. So I struggle with a lot of the simpler tasks in life, which is what I think I'm here to talk about, is how I got from where I was to where I am today, which, as Ash said, it was so nice to meet him. Again, we had such a great conversation the other day, and I kind of told him about my history and my past. And he asked me to be a part of this, and I'm more than happy to do so. I hope somebody out there will take something away. It is my goal to offer what I've learned through my life with everyone else that's available or willing to listen. So back in my Air Force days, I was injured and got hurt. And as I came out of the military, I battled the VA. I always say I fought 2 wars, the one that was in the military and the one against the Veterans Association. The Veterans Association does the best they can. However, it's not a perfect system. And as you guys know, most veterans struggle to get care, which we're all working on, and hopefully we'll come up with a better solution. The VA was a definite long battle, but one that I fought for a very long time. Their resolution or solution to me being hurt and my injuries was simply to medicate me. To the point where they had me on 11 different medications all at one time. And it wasn't helping. I was in terrible shape. I was sick. I was all the things that you hear from veterans. And so one day I went to visit my psychiatrist in the VA, and the guy told me, he said, "Hey, you're a helpless case. There's nothing we can do for you. You're probably going to be dead in 6 months." And I turned to him and said, I'll never take another drug again. I'm never coming back to see you again. And I'm going to take my life back into my own hands. And I did. And from that day forward, I found my way into healthy living, eating habits, became vegan, started to practice yoga a little bit and started to introduce it to my life, but mostly was just trying to get off all the drugs that they had given me. A couple of years later, as I kept progressing, getting healthier, getting better off, I had started to feel some neck injuries that came along with the TBI, the traumatic brain injury. Those neck injuries took me to see some doctors. Those doctors led me to a point where they told me basically that I needed to have discs replaced out of my neck with rubber discs and put ball bearings in. And I was 30 years old. I couldn't imagine spending the rest of my life having to deal with these kind of things. And so I said, hey, what are my other options? And they basically said, listen, if you can develop core strength and keep spinal flexibility and you can build up your neck and shoulders, use that in an inversion table, you could buy yourself 10, maybe 20 years before you actually have to have the surgery. Done. That's all I needed to hear. I went home, I Googled core strength, spinal flexibility. First thing that popped up was yoga. So I dedicated my life to yoga for about 6 months. I never missed a day and practiced every day, developed a daily practice, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. And it really started to help. And I didn't understand what yoga was. I just got into the physical practice of moving and the asanas and that kind of thing. But overall, it started to help. Had to run home and use inversion tables all the time, which, as you guys can imagine, is not really a practical thing. So as soon as I found out there was a handstand offered, I really found that as a passion. So I became passionate about doing handstands. The reason I was simply to avoid having to go home and use an inversion table. Fast forward years later, ironically, now, as Ash said, I have been an international yoga teacher for a number of years, and I travel the world teaching and sharing my message with other people. I also own a studio here in Florida and offer the same thing there. And people ask me all the time, hey, Kris, how did you get into yoga? What made you get into yoga? You know, you're a 210-pound man, bald guy, tattoos. You don't look like the traditional yogi. What are you doing in yoga? And I tell everybody the same answer, that it's self-preservation. And the reason that I started it and why I'm doing it is still to this day is to keep myself from having to have surgery. However, it became my career. It became my passion and sharing my message with other people. It's so much more than just that, you know, the mindfulness, the learning to practice a little bit each day, just developing and devoting yourself a little bit each day is what it's about. And recently became certified in life coaching and started helping people with that aspect of their life. End game, one day I'd like to be able to open an out processing center for veterans to where they can come and seek help and be offered all the things they need: meditation, yoga, plant medicine, vegan-based dieting, all of the things that will help them and really help them to segue back into the real world. And that's the end game that I'd like to get to. That's the Balance Studio concept. So hopefully one day that will come about. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to reach out and find as many platforms as possible. And again, thank you, Ash, for hosting this one, and share my message with as many people as I can. The idea of yoga being practiced, and I know it's very hard for veterans and for a lot of guys, especially bigger guys, to even imagine like where to begin. And this is probably the most common thing I receive from my friends, male friends, is basically, where do I start, Kris? What do I do? What's my steps? How do I even? And my answer to them is as simple as, I've been listening to the entire summit and everyone's had some amazing stuff to say. And it kind of all goes together. Like, start small, breathe, take a walk, step outside, spend some time in the grass. For me, my favorite thing to do is just simply lie in the grass and watch the clouds go by. No phone, no take pictures, nothing for Instagram, nothing for social media. Just simply lie there and watch the clouds. It will make you feel more alive and more in touch with who you are, and would be probably the best yoga practice you could do without having to do anything physical. Now, as you move forward and as you'd like to develop your physical practice as well, it's important that you take the right path and the right steps. So for me, the biggest step that I wanted and the main goal that I had to accomplish in my life was simply to be able to touch my toes. Does anybody else have that desire in their life? I don't know how well you're going to be able to see me, but Ash actually asked me to demonstrate some little yoga poses. So I've got this really cool setup. Hopefully it's bright enough and you guys can see me. Yeah, maybe a little, somewhat.
Yeah, you're good, man.
Awesome. Okay, so the very first thing I wanted to do was simply find my way to my toes. But when I started, I was like most guys. I had really tight hamstrings, really tight legs, didn't understand anything about movement, and my body was only moving because I was fortunate enough that I hadn't damaged it bad enough to stop it from moving. I was in no way helping myself or making any contribution towards a healthier or happier life. So as I started here. And my goal was simply to touch the floor. I wanted to tie my shoes without having to sit down. Seemed really simple at the time, right? Seemed like such an easy goal. And most women wouldn't understand this, but most guys are sitting back laughing because this is exactly what we go through. So as I started to develop the practice over time, just simply hanging, just simply hanging, just simply hanging, just simply hanging, just hang. Eventually, I was able to find my way to the floor. Now, most people don't realize that with a gentle bend in the legs and your head hanging below your waist, you are in an inversion. Inversions are very healthy for people. So folding forward and spending time there would be my strongest recommendation for how to begin any type of physical practice. And especially if you're a guy and you're looking to develop a little bit of flexibility and mobility, but it also gets the blood to your head, turns the body upside down, allows the heart to be lower than the hips, which is very, very powerful. There's a lot of healing things behind this, and you guys can look into those as you like. The next game becomes how to elevate more, how to find more ways to elevate or to invert. So for me, inversions have become a way of life, and I live for them. I do them all the time. And if you guys visit my Instagram page, which I'm sure Ash will provide for everyone, there's a abundance of handstands and inversions. But a lot of people don't realize also they're quite simply lying on your back and keeping your feet above your head is also an inversion. It's simple, it's easy. You can lie with them up a wall. That way it makes it even easier. Place a block or a bolster underneath your hips and allow yourself to elevate your feet. So for me, the simplest way to start the practice or the idea of getting things going is simply to invert yourself. Let the blood flow backwards and see how it feels. Again, taking a walk barefoot in the dirt. There's a lot of research out right now about grounding and getting back to nature. Lying in the grass, watching the clouds go by. For me, I live by the ocean, and so the tempo of the waves and the tide and everything else is very therapeutic for me. Helps me with so many different things. And as I said in the beginning, I struggle so much so that when I left the service, I had a lot of things that I had to relearn how to do. Speak, walk, talk, move, stuff that's important. And then over the past 20, 25 years, there's been degeneration, there's been issues. They don't really have a whole lot of knowledge and working knowledge on traumatic brain injuries. But day by day, I keep picking myself up. I keep finding ways to become more connected with nature, become more connected with people, pay attention to the positives, always looking at the silver lining. I've also spent time working with shaman and healers in other countries. And going back to someone who was speaking earlier about plant medicine, I'm a huge believer in plant medicine. The 11 narcotics or drugs that they had me on in the VA did nothing for me except make me even crazier and unhealthier. Plant medicine, however, has offered me resolution. It's offered me opportunity. It's offered me a chance to be free from that chains and bondage that I lived in and that I had for so many years. So I know it's not conventional here, but as you would find out if you travel around the world, most countries think that our way of attempting to heal people is absolutely ludicrous. It's not even logical. There's a saying that if you have a headache, it's not because your body lacks Tylenol. Yet we're trained to reach for Tylenol right away as our first instinct. You have to question why that is. It's profitable, not that it's actually what you need. So through all the yoga, through the stretching, through the breathing, through the meditation, through the spending time slowing down, and eventually finding my way into handstands, which allows me to alleviate a lot of the neck pain and pressure and the stress that I have, I found myself a really healthy balance in life, which is where I came up with the name The Balance Studio. The idea is that you cannot be balanced in just one aspect of your life, but you have to be balanced in all aspects of your life. And that's why the life coaching came about, was the idea that if I'm going to offer people a physical balance training, I need to also offer them the mental, spiritual, and all other aspects of balance training. And so now it's become so much more than just a place to practice yoga. We teach handstands, we teach all levels of balance. And every day we're coming up with new ideas on how to challenge people with balance more and more. A lot of my clients who hire me for privates, one of the very first things I do to teach them about balance is ask them to stand on one foot for 5 minutes. I really don't care what you do with the other foot, just stay on one foot for 5 minutes. And if you guys like to try a drill at home, it's a great drill to try. It doesn't take very long, but those 5 minutes seem like a really, really long time as you're standing on one foot, and you'll come to be humbled real quickly at how little balance you really have. In order to balance on your hands, you have to be able to balance on your feet. And so I know we all struggle from time to time with that, usually alcohol induced, I guess, when that happens, but neither here nor there. I don't think there's anyone on the earth who wouldn't like to have more balance in their life. And I think the last speaker was just talking about the balance between left brain and right brain, and left body and right body. And what she was saying was absolutely accurate. I mean, if you don't have balance between divine feminine and divine masculine, then you have no balance at all. So, the yin and yang, a little good, little evil type thing. Learning to find balance in your life is going to bring peace. And so as you can find that balance, and as you can find the mental wellness and health through these exercises, through these teachings, through surrounding yourself with people who are like on this summit right now, anyone and everyone who I've heard speak today is full of a wealth of knowledge and can help people have better lives. And there's no question as to why they're on here. And so if you want to be, and I teach my children this all the time, if you want to be anything in this world, find someone who's doing that and do what they do. And, I'm inspired by the other host on here, and I've had a great time watching and being a part of the summit. I'm even more grateful that I get to be a part of it. But just to simply be here and watch has been so educational and so informational for me. It's been amazing.
Dude, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you spending the time talking to us about, your journey and how yoga and wellness has helped you. I'm curious though, one question I'd have is for someone who's new to just doing a handstand. I'm asking for a friend. I'm kidding. I'm asking for me. I don't do a lot of handstands, but I want to now. I'm kind of inspired by you talking about it. What advice would you give me?
Find a coach. This is a skill. It's one thing that you're never going to just pick up. And I always tell people when they come to me as clients and they ask me, hey, I want to do a handstand, my first thing to them is, how many people do you know who can do a handstand? And the answer is usually none. But if you ask someone, how many people do you know who can dunk a basketball? Or how many people do you know who can slalom ski a mountain? Or how many people do you know who can high dive? Oh yeah, I know a couple people. I do. Oh no, people know people who are very, very talented and very, very good at things. But even in spite of that, there's very few people that anyone ever knows who can actually handstand. And so it's that difficult of a task. So find a coach and get the coach to get you started on the right path, because it is a skill and it does take a lot of training and practice. The other thing I would say is love to have your hands on the ground. If you don't love to have your hands on the ground, you're probably not going to fall in love with the practice. And if you don't fall in love with it, you will never attain the handstand. I always tell everyone the handstand is only obtained by the most dedicated of practitioners, not the wealthiest, not the strongest, not the smartest, not the bravest, but the most dedicated.
Okay. One kind of quick question that I wanted to just get a little more insight on is, one thing I've learned about mindfulness is that specifically meditations, there's not one complete meditation. Some do still, some do guided, some do walking meditation, active meditation. I mean, there's hundreds of meditations I could probably list. What is a meditation that you do? I want to understand like some of your own routines and habits, if you don't mind.
So for me, as ironic as it sounds, the handstand has become my meditation.
Nice.
And the way that it works is that no matter how fast I get going in life, no matter how much anxiety I build up, no matter how much stress I take on, At any given point in time, in order for me to do a handstand, I have to bring myself back to a healthy tempo, a healthy state of mind, a healthy thought process, and a healthy place. And that for me has become so consistent now that anytime my life gets a little chaotic or crazy, my meditation is my handstand. Because when I'm in the handstand, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not focusing on anything else. I'm breathing. I'm believing in myself. I'm using my body for something. And on top of all of that, it's quiet because you can't have distractions in the handstand in order to find balance with it. So it's become my form of meditation. Now, do I still sit and breathe and simply spend time meditating? Of course, absolutely. But for me, having that handstand and making that part of my life has really created the best form of meditation that I could find, because I love what I do and I love that it brings me back to that point every time. I teach people all the time that the handstand has to, in order to achieve the handstand, you must have balance in the mind first. And if you can't find the balance between your two ears, then you won't find your balance through the rest of your body when you flip it upside down.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time again. Thank you for sharing. I'm looking forward to seeing you in January for your event. And yeah, man, keep up the good work, brother.
Thanks so much, Ash. Appreciate you guys.
Namaste.
Take care, everybody.